What if I told you that your intelligence, the very thing you are praised for, is actually the root of your misery? In a world ruled by perception, not truth by emotions, not logic, being smart isn't a strength, it's a liability. Today, we unveil a bitter truth. You'll never want to be smart ever again. Because once you understand the dark price of intelligence, the loneliness, the anxiety, the silent punishment, you'll begin to see why the world rewards the foolish more than the wise. This isn't philosophy, it's power, Machiavellian power. There is a silent price you pay for seeing the world too clearly, and it begins the moment you're labeled as smart. You think it's a compliment, a badge of honor, but over time, you begin to notice something strange. You don't quite belong anymore. Your thoughts drift further from others. Conversations become exhausting. The more aware you are, the more disconnected you feel. Intelligence, in its purest form, does not unite you with people, it isolates you from them. You start to realize that people don't actually want deep answers. They want affirmation, agreement, a quick smile, and a shared illusion. They want you to nod when they speak nonsense, laugh when they repeat clichés, and remain silent when they mistake emotion for truth. But the intelligent mind, it can't help itself. It wants to dig deeper, to correct, to dissect, and that is the beginning of your exile. When you enter a room and sense tensions no one speaks of, when you notice the subtle lies in someone's flattery, when you analyze motives instead of words, you're not connecting. You're observing, and that distance becomes permanent. You don't just hear what people say. You hear what they really mean. You see the gap between their masks and their motives. It's not paranoia, it's clarity. But clarity comes with a cost, because the more clearly you see the world, the less you can enjoy it. Look closely at your own life. How many friendships have withered because you outgrew the small talk? How many relationships ended because your honesty was too much? How many times have you stayed silent just to preserve someone else's comfort? This is what no one tells you about intelligence. It doesn't make life easier. It makes it lonelier. The average man has the comfort of belonging. He nods, he laughs, he blends, but you notice everything. And because of that, you slowly stop relating to anyone. You learn that you can't say what you truly think, not because you're wrong, but because you're too right and people aren't ready for that. Your insights become burdens, your clarity becomes controversy, and your mind becomes a prison where only you understand the language. Even in a crowd, you feel alone, surrounded by noise yet starved for substance. You long for a conversation that doesn't drain you, for company that doesn't bore you, for a mind that challenges you instead of numbing you. But the smarter you are, the rarer that becomes, so you adapt. You learn to dim your light in rooms that can't handle the brightness. You simplify your thoughts so others don't feel threatened. You pretend not to notice the manipulation in someone's tone, the hypocrisy in someone's values, the contradiction in someone's beliefs. You put on a mask not to deceive, but to survive. Because every time you speak your full mind, you face the same cold response: discomfort. People don't argue with you because you're wrong. They withdraw because you unsettle them. They don't want truth. They want peace. And in their world, intelligence is not peaceful. It's dangerous. It's disruptive. It's a reminder of their limitations. So slowly, the intelligent man learns what Machiavelli once understood. It is not enough to possess wisdom. One must know when to be silent. And silence becomes your companion. But there is a darker twist still. Over time, you begin to resent your intelligence. You envy the carefree, the oblivious, the ones who live in simplicity, believing what they are told, following the herd, never questioning the script. They laugh easier, sleep deeper, belong faster. They are not weighed down by knowledge or cursed by curiosity. And you wonder, were they the smart ones all along? Because while you carry the burden of insight, they carry the joy of ignorance. No one warned you that intelligence wasn't just thinking fast or solving puzzles. It was seeing too much and being unable to close your eyes again. It was understanding people better than they understood themselves, and realizing that truth often destroys connection instead of building it. And the cruelest part, the world needs people like you to see clearly, but it doesn't want you to speak. It praises intelligence in theory but punishes it in practice. It wants you smart enough to produce, but not wise enough to rebel. Smart enough to serve, but not strategic enough to lead. So you carry this burden silently. You sit in rooms where no one speaks your language. You laugh at jokes that bore you. You agree with ideas you've outgrown. And you watch as the world moves to the rhythm of comfort, not truth. And in that silence, you begin to ask the most dangerous question of all. There is a peculiar torment reserved for those with sharp minds, and it's not chaos, it's inactivity. Not because they're lazy, but because they see too much. Every move they make is a ripple in a pond they've already imagined flooding. Every decision is analyzed, dismantled, and rehearsed in 1,000 variations before a single step is taken. And that is the curse of overthinking. When you're intelligent, you don't just look at the surface, you dig beneath it. While others choose, you calculate. You think not only about what you want to do, but what might happen if it fails, how others will react, what the long-term consequence will be, how it might affect your reputation, your goals, your sense of integrity, your future alliances, and this mental hurricane swirls before you even move a finger. A simple message left unread. You analyze the timing, the tone, the implications of the delay. A harmless joke made at your expense. You wonder if it's a test, a power move, or a warning in disguise. Even compliments are dissected. Were they genuine, or a strategy to disarm you? You become a master of scenarios, a general of imaginary wars. You prepare for betrayals that haven't happened, decode meanings never spoken, and anticipate consequences before the world even notices the spark. This hyper-awareness isn't a gift, it's a cage, and the cruelest part, you're usually right. The things you sense do happen. The people you doubt do reveal their masks. The games you anticipate do unfold. But by the time you are proven right, you've already drained yourself through prediction. This is where Machiavelli would smirk, knowing well that in power it is not the most intelligent who wins, but the most decisive. The prince who acts, even with limited understanding, often triumphs over the scholar who waits for clarity that never comes, because the world does not reward the one who sees all outcomes. It rewards the one who chooses any of them boldly. Overthinking turns life into a chessboard, but unlike chess, life doesn't pause while you plan your next move. While you think, someone else acts. While you hesitate, someone else advances. While you try to make the best decision, someone else makes a bad one but makes it fast and wins simply because they moved first. You start to see that intelligence doesn't equal impact. The overthinker may understand all the rules, but the risk taker owns the game. You know more, but they do more. And doing, even imperfectly, always beats knowing in silence. This is where frustration creeps in. You look around and see people who are less insightful than you achieving more, being admired more, getting further not because they are better, but because they are unbothered. They don't analyze every risk. They don't care if they're misread. They don't spiral into mental loops before making a move. They just go. And that's something the intelligent man secretly envies, the simplicity of action without the weight of awareness. Because the more you know, the harder it becomes to choose. The more variables you see, the less certain you feel. And so you become frozen, a spectator in a game you should be leading. This paralysis of thought becomes a form of self-sabotage. You convince yourself that you're being careful, strategic, wise. But deep down, you know the truth you're hiding behind your own mind. You're waiting for perfect timing, perfect understanding, perfect safety. And that moment never comes, so you retreat into planning. You build mental blueprints for dreams you'll never begin. You write silent arguments you'll never voice. You imagine bold steps you'll never take. And while your mind builds empires, your feet remain still. The world, however, does not measure brilliance in ideas. It measures it in outcomes. No one will ever see the cleverness of the moves you almost made. No one will remember the courage you planned to show. No one will reward the battles you mentally fought but never entered. And yet, the intelligent man continues, analyzing every angle, haunted by the need to avoid failure, to avoid humiliation, to avoid the unpredictable, and in doing so, he becomes the very thing he despises, ineffective. He watches as others rise not because they are better, but because they are braver in their ignorance, because sometimes not knowing the depth of the sea is the only way you'll ever jump. There is a brutal truth hiding behind every applause, every smile, every compliment society offers. It claims to celebrate individuality, it praises free thinkers, it romanticizes rebellion, but in practice, the world does not reward those who are different. It isolates them, rejects them, even destroys them. Especially when that difference comes in the form of intelligence. The smarter you are, the quicker you understand that most people are not searching for truth, they are searching for comfort. They want their beliefs reinforced, not challenged. They want their narratives protected, not dissected. And when you come along with eyes that see too far, with thoughts that run too deep, you become a threat, not to their safety, but to their illusion. Society does not love the one who sees clearly. It loves the one who fits in, who says the right things at the right time, who plays the game, who smiles, nods, agrees even when he knows the truth is burning just beneath the surface. The moment you stop doing that, the moment you start questioning the script, you are no longer a part of the tribe. You are a disruption. People do not understand that. They believe if they're smart, they will be respected. That clarity will earn admiration, but what it often earns is resentment, because your intelligence highlights what others lack. Your insight makes their ignorance visible. Your independence reminds them of their dependence on systems, groups, and lies they never had the courage to question. You think speaking truth makes you noble, but in the eyes of the crowd, it makes you arrogant. You think offering a better idea will win you influence, but instead, it sparks quiet envy, and envy is the silent assassin of every great mind. It will smile at you in meetings, then sabotage you in silence. It will praise your ideas in public, then block them in private. This is why the most intelligent people are often misunderstood, because society does not listen to your mind, it reads your presence. And if your presence reminds people of what they are not, they will find ways to push you out. You'll start to notice this in small ways. People will call you too intense, too serious, too complicated. They'll tell you to lighten up, stop thinking so much, don't overanalyze. But what they're really saying is, stop being different, stop threatening the norm, stop seeing what we're trying to avoid. It happens in friendships where you're told you're too deep when you refuse to engage in gossip. It happens in families where your questions feel like disrespect. It happens at work where your excellence is quietly punished because it exposes the mediocrity around you. And yet, the world will never admit this openly. Instead, it will cloak its hostility in the language of values. They'll say you're not a team player, or that you lack emotional intelligence, or that your ideas are too ahead of their time. But all of it is camouflage, a mask to hide the discomfort your mind creates. Machiavelli knew this well. He understood that truth is rarely welcomed, especially when it disrupts power. And in every society, there are unspoken rules. Keep your insights quiet. Keep your doubts hidden. Keep your superiority veiled or face the consequences. Because those who cannot compete with your mind will try to destroy your reputation. If they can't match your logic, they'll question your tone. If they can't follow your ideas, they'll call you cold. And if they can't defeat your arguments, they'll attack your character. This is how society preserves itself, not by lifting up its smartest, but by pushing them into silence. By labeling them as dangerous, difficult, or disloyal. Not because they are wrong, but because they are right too early. Because they see what others are not ready to confront. You start to see that intelligence doesn't just set you apart, it paints a target on your back. The more clearly you think, the more carefully you must speak, because one misplaced truth, one unwelcome observation, one moment of brutal honesty, and you will be marked. Not openly, that would be too obvious. But slowly, subtly, you'll be excluded from decisions, ignored in conversations, passed over in praise. Your presence will be tolerated, but your brilliance will not be embraced. Not until it's safe. And it's never safe until it's popular. This is why so many intelligent people either hide their minds or leave the game entirely. Not because they lack courage, but because they've learned the rules. They've learned that being different in thought or action comes with a price tag. One that society pretends doesn't exist, but it does. In the grand theater of power, it has never mattered who was the wisest. What mattered was who looked harmless, who played the fool convincingly, who knew the art of disguise. And here lies a brutal, unspoken law that intelligent people often ignore, that in a world ruled by perception, the appearance of intelligence is far more dangerous than intelligence itself. This is the ruthless truth Machiavelli understood centuries ago. It is not enough to be wise. You must know when to seem foolish, because the world doesn't want to be outsmarted. It wants to be entertained. It wants to be comforted. It wants to believe that its kings are wise, its heroes are good, its institutions are fair, and anyone who threatens to peel back the mask to reveal what's behind the curtain is not applauded, he is feared. This is why the most powerful men in history have often played dumb, not because they lacked vision, but because they understood the game. The prince must never appear too clever. He must not reveal his full mind. He must let others believe they are in control, even as he pulls the strings in silence. He must play a role of friend, a fool, a servant until the moment strikes. Then, and only then, does he strike back. The tragedy of intelligence is that it desires to be seen. The intelligent man wants to share ideas, explain truth, elevate the conversation. But Machiavelli would laugh at this impulse, because every truth has a cost. Every revelation makes enemies, and every display of superior thought sparks quiet resistance. So the wise learn to hide, to simplify their language, to slow their speech, to nod at stupidity, to pretend not to see what they see. Because survival, not brilliance, is the first rule of power. You must be underestimated. You must let others feel smarter than you. You must lose the small battles to win the unseen war. The fool is dismissed. The genius is feared, but the invisible strategist, the one who blends in, he controls everything. This is why Machiavelli never advised rulers to be good. He advised them to be effective, and sometimes being effective means appearing weaker than you are. Less aware, less capable, less dangerous. Because when you are not seen as a threat, no one prepares for your rise. But the moment you begin to speak like a philosopher, question like a scientist, or move like a king, you trigger alarms. People may admire you to your face, but behind closed doors they conspire. No one wants to be led by someone who makes them feel small. They want to feel smarter than their leader. They want the illusion of superiority, even if it's a lie. This is why power does not follow intelligence, it follows influence. And influence is never built through intimidation. It's built through subtlety, adaptation, and masks. The intelligent man who cannot disguise himself is doomed to suffer. Because truth, no matter how brilliant, must be packaged to survive. It must be hidden in stories, coated in charm, or buried beneath silence. The ones who last are not the ones who know the most, they are the ones who know when not to speak. When to delay, when to lose a debate just to win the loyalty. When to flatter an idiot just to gain his access. When to play small only to strike from the shadows. This is not cowardice. This is warfare. The battlefield has changed, but the rules have not. In the digital world, in the workplace, in the social arena, people still react with fear to those who think too clearly. They still whisper about the one who always has the answers. They still turn against the one who doesn't play dumb like everyone else. You don't lose because you lack intelligence. You lose because you expose it. Because you forget that power belongs not to the truth teller, but to the storyteller. Not to the best thinker, but to the best actor. So the Machiavellian mind retreats. It reshapes itself. It learns to speak in layers, to smile in silence, to nod at nonsense, to bend before the weak only to break them later. The mind that cannot bend will snap. The mind that bends on purpose becomes unbreakable. This is why the most intelligent are rarely the most powerful. Power doesn't go to the one who sees most clearly. It goes to the one who hides his vision behind a veil of simplicity. while pulling the world forward in the dark. So now you see the truth they never taught you in school, never wrote in books, never said aloud, that intelligence, real intelligence, is not some shining crown to be worn with pride. It is a double-edged sword. A burden, a threat, a curse disguised as a gift. It isolates you from others, traps you inside your own mind, paints a target on your back, and forces you to play a role in a world that fears what it cannot understand. But Machiavelli never told us to stop thinking. He told us to think strategically, to understand the game but never announce that you do, to master perception, to hide brilliance behind a smile, to speak when it serves you and remain silent when it doesn't. Because survival isn't about being the smartest in the room. It's about being the one no one sees coming. So if you are tired of being punished for your mind, if you're exhausted by the weight of overthinking, if you feel alone in a world that rewards mediocrity and silences truth, then remember this: you don't need to be less intelligent. You need to be less visible. Let them underestimate you. Let them assume you're simple. Let them believe they're winning, because while they play checkers, you'll be building kingdoms in silence.